The path to wholeness and beingness begins with questions. Why do I always keep making the same mistake? Why do I feel like I'm in a prison of unhappiness? What areas of my life am I happy? What areas of life am I unhappy? Am I stuck in a repetitive cycle of negative behavior? If so, what are they? Am I living the life I want to live, or are others dictating the pace? Am I in control of my decision making, or are past experiences dictating my behavior and outcomes? Do I feel I really need to make a change in my life? These are questions that are being sent to you from Spirit to start you on your journey of learning and understanding your own authentic truth. In other words, freeing your spirit from the prison that your shame built to protect you. What was once your protector has become your prison guard. These walls that were slowly built over time by your mind to perceive or to protect you from what the mind perceived as hurt, pain, fear, scrutiny, disappointment, and designed as your life to protect you, the same wall has become your prison and keeps you away from intimacy, love, self-worth, and the life that you now desire. Understanding the emotions and situations that lead to this behavior. Self-sabotaging behavior often stems from feelings of anxiety, anger, and worthlessness. You will have to take the journey back to the experience when you were introduced to the social emotion of shame. Remember the experience and what was your reaction to this experience. Let me give you an example. A child is playing with a valuable guitar that has sentimental value to his dad. The child is living in a happy world of exploration and adventure, and the guitar is just another toy to play with and explore. His dad comes home after a bad day at work. The child sees his father and smiles, expecting to receive hugs and kisses. The father sees the child playing with the guitar, and his triggers are set in motion. He screams at the child, swats him on his backside. The child is now confused because the person who is supposed to hug him to protect him is now seen as the person who could hurt him and kill him. Most of us have experienced similar experiences like this one. It is important to see what was the residue that was left with this experience and what was said in your mind to not experience this type of situation ever again. It may be hurtful to go back to that moment and others like it. It's important for you to begin to see slowly the formation of triggers that automatically threw you into the protection mode. Take care not to ignore strong emotions. They're likely a sign of something is going wrong or something is wrong. Learn your internal and external triggers. A trigger is seen as anything that prompts an increase in or return of symptoms. Triggers vary widely from person to person and can be either internal or external. An internal trigger comes from within you. It can be a memory, a physical sensation, or an emotion. Let me give you this example. I was beginning in a relationship with someone, and they wanted to do something that would include the both of us, like going on a trip. Instead of them asking me if I would like to go outright, they would just drop hints or occasionally mention the desire to go as if they were planning an excursion for themselves. When I asked them why they didn't ask me outright if I wanted to go, they would say, well, I didn't ask because I don't like being rejected. I had to explain to them that the word no did not mean that I was rejecting them. Remember, we live most of our lives in our hearts and in our minds. Sometimes experiences in our past resemble the experience in our present. You have to remind yourself that this is not the same experience. Push through those feelings or those triggers and see life as it is, and it will become better and better every day. Learn about external triggers. External triggers come from the environment. These triggers can be a person, place, or specific situation. These triggers are a little more tricky because they just happen. It can be a movie, television show, a news article that reminds you of an event. It can be a smell of a certain cologne, certain songs from the past, specific location, special days, and on and on and on. In learning how to deal with triggers or to cope with triggers, learn to call your support group. Learn deep breathing, exercise, express yourself in writing by keeping a journal. Do mindfulness meditations. Empower yourself by preparing to cope with triggers. Become aware of signs in your bodies that you're reacting to a trigger, such as changes in your breathing, so that you can learn how to calm yourself down and shift your emotional state. Learn to deal with overthinking. People who self-sabotage seem to be overthinkers. Overthinking is a defense mechanism. When internal and external triggers are initiated, the mind begins to figure out the outcome of the situation. Because of the fear of being ashamed or embarrassed, the mind constructs different scenarios. It forms a loop until it perceives the best outcome, with the perceived danger not getting too close or gaining any kind of hurt over the thinker. Learn to spot thinking or beliefs that cause overthinking. Chances are the emotions that led to your negative behavior was caused by irrational thoughts. Deconstruct to reconstruct. Start a journal. Most people are afraid of journals. It is possible to love someone and not to know them. Let me give you an example. I loved my mother when she was alive, but I only knew her as my mom. I didn't know her as a sensual woman. I didn't know her as a woman who had dreams outside of her family. It's the same when people ask you to journal. It could be a guided journal where you are asked to ask questions. It's primers to help get you started, or it can be the more intimidating blank page journal. I think down deep, most people don't really want to know who lives and dreams within, because it means that they have to examine and ask hard questions. One has to deconstruct many falsehoods and behaviors. It is much easier to help others or to busy oneself with external stimulations. But the universe is constantly sending questions that must be answered. Life should not be a merry-go-round, but a journey that leads to a destination of adventure and true living. Be patient. Rome was not built in a day. In this culture of problems being solved without serious work and time, it has lulled us into a sense of false reality. Realize that if you have been constructing this defense mechanism for yourself for the past 30 or 40 years, it's going to take time to hunt down the culprit, the inner critic, the saboteur. It starts with an honest dialogue with yourself. Instead of reacting to life on autopilot, consider your action and objectively question if your decision has the best interest in heart that concerns you, or whether the outcome is likely to be beneficial. My mother had this habit when she was cleaning the house when I was young, and when something was on her mind that she had to figure out, she would talk out loud to herself. At first, me being 6, I would ask her, "Who are you talking to?" And she would look at me and say, "I'm talking to my best friend, me." In this day and time, it's not unusual to see people talking to the air, and then we realize that they are on Bluetooth connected to their cell phones. I think all of us have misplaced our keys at one time or another, and we ask ourselves out loud, "Where did I place those keys? Who are you talking to?" It's very therapeutic to talk out loud to yourself. Why? Because we have so many voices in our busy minds. Not only is our mind talking to itself, but at the same time, it's also listening to itself. The Stoics called this mitote, 1,000 voices talking in your mind at the same time, and no one understanding what the other is saying. Have you ever had a thought come to you in the next second you can't remember what it was? The human mind is capable of thinking 1,000 thoughts at the same time. When you speak out loud, it brings the mind to a place of singleness. That's why we pray. That's why we meditate, and we do other exercise of silencing the voices, and they're important tools for humans to bring singleness of mind. You must have the mind's full attention, which is going to be needed to figure out the complex behavior pattern that you and your mind have constructed. Be patient. It's going to take a minute, but your spirit and mind will work it out. Remember, we live most of our lives in our heads and in our hearts.